I'm Karyn and I'm here with Kelly, and we are answering your grief questions. And we kind of started this channel as an opportunity to just spread more information that does seem to be lacking in so many places about grief, this experience, and what it's really like for people, and hopefully to provide some education and validation. Of course, anytime you're starting something like this, kind of come up with a name or with kind of an overarching theme. And in this case, we created this channel and called it From Grief to Growth. Kelly, can you tell us a little bit more about why we chose to call it that?
Yeah, and I think there's multiple layers to this. This isn't just a simple answer, I think. But, you know, a lot of times when we go through a significant loss in our lives, it does change us, right? We do. I always say that we're never really going to be the same person we were before a huge loss. And that's okay, right? It does change us. And in some ways, those changes may be positive. And not that you needed to go through a loss to have this growth and to change and evolve or whatever it is, but it can happen. And as one of my clients said, and I love this, and she's like, I didn't have to go through the death of my son to learn. Like I was okay the way I was. I didn't need to grow. But since I'm here, I'm in this grief, what can I learn? And how can I grow? And I think that's such a good mindset about it. And it's not, I don't think it's something that right away we figure out, right? We don't know that like 3 months even after, like, oh, I'm going to be this is how I'm going to be growing and changing. I mean, I think about myself even over, the last 30 years since my mom died, the growth that has happened because of my grief.
Mm.
I think it's helped me be a better therapist. I think it's helped me be a better person, especially to other people in my life when they're grieving. And so there's all these different ways we can grow in our grief. And so I think both of us are of the mindset of more of like, let's let's focus on some of the positives. Yes, grief is really hard and difficult and we're going to have it, but we can also have meaning fulfilling lives. And so what does that look like and how can we get to that point?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a hard one. I'm always trying to be careful not to present like, well, here's a bright side, here's a silver lining.
Exactly.
Nobody wants that. It's no consolation. There's
Mhm.
nothing that
No.
replaces having a loved one here. So I think if, of course, given the choice, people are like, yeah, I don't, like you said, want this growth. I don't need it. Everything was fine the
Mhm.
way it was. So that's a particularly hard thing, I think, when it seems to almost be or could be presented as like, oh, but look at what happens, so I think we both feel like we probably have to be really careful with that. um you know
Exactly. It's like the statement that, probably all of our clients cringe about. Everything happens for a reason.
right, absolutely, which neither of us ever say, I'm
Yes,
sure.
exactly.
So I think, just trying to be really mindful of that, is important. And I will say to people, listen, it's sometimes it's like whether you like it or not, this growth happens because there's changes that happen, and there's things that you start to do differently. And guess what? It just so happens that they're not all bad. They're really not. I mean, I think people's perspective. I had someone say one time, I wouldn't wish this loss on anyone, but I would wish the perspective. Like what you gain
Yeah.
in having something like this happen, and sort of wishing that other people around you kind of got it too. Like what matters and what doesn't, and not sort of sweating the small stuff. Those are all things that really can change from earlier parts of our life where we could get caught up in things that in the aftermath would almost seem kind of silly. And it's not to say that they are, but it's like people just sort of find like this is what really matters, I think.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
I
know,
100% agree. And I also hear so much of like, well, I wouldn't be able to support her like I am now if I hadn't gone through my own grief,
right. Absolutely.
and how much that has changed that perspective of grief
Yeah.
and how to support somebody.
Yeah.
And so in some ways
Absolutely.
that's what it could be,
Yeah.
as simple as that growth.
One of my favorite things that happened in a group one time is we were kind of talking about what are the changes that you've seen in yourself since this loss happened. We were a big group and everybody's going around, and it was all of the tough stuff. Well, my memory's not as good. I'm tired all the time. I'm withdrawn. I feel lonely. And then this one woman came along and she said, I am so much more compassionate than I've ever been. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's right. There are some things here that, again, aren't all bad. And it kind of changed the whole circle as people started to talk about other things that changed maybe for the better. I've had people say, I wish he could see me now. Like, I wish he knew this version of me because I was, I'd give him a hard time about little stuff. I'd get upset about things. And I'm just not like that now. And I think he would like this me so much. And it's like, that's maybe its own sad thing, of course, but seeing that a person can really feel that pride in themselves, also what you're able to accomplish, and people have a tendency to diminish those accomplishments, but it's like it's a big deal, the things that people do. um
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm just thinking about someone we know, both of us know, and her husband has younger onset Alzheimer's, and she's having to do all these things in the house that he would have done. And she celebrates when she's watches the YouTube video and figures out how to change the faucet out or whatever it is. And, to be able to see that, like, she's so proud of herself when she
yeah,
does those things. And she's like, well, I did this now and I'm going to do this. And like, she's like, these things that I think we rely on sometimes for other people. And then we're forced because of grief
yeah.
to learn to do them, and then we're able to do them, and we should celebrate that success.
Absolutely. And that's something I talk to people about a lot because there's this like thing that happens where people will tell me, oh my gosh, you'll never believe what I did. They'll
Mhm.
tell me, and then it's quickly like, I mean, I know it's so stupid. Everybody's able to do this. And it's like, no, stop. Stay with the first part, like, where you're happy and proud of yourself. And, I had a woman one time who just made a list of everything that she's done since her partner died. And one of them was taking the trash all the way. They have a very, very long driveway, apparently. And that was
Mhm.
always his job. And she did that. And I was like, yeah, taking out the trash when you never did it before. And it's really long, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you find this. I also find too that I actually just had someone in a group last night was like, maybe this is stuff that I should have worked on for a while anyway. Like some people are perfectionist or people pleasers or struggle with boundaries or let people treat them a certain way, or they have sort of those toxic relationships that they kind of limp along in. And people are just, I can't deal with that stuff. And I can't be a perfectionist and I can't really be pleasing everybody else right now. And there's something that can be liberating about that. And as I said, a woman was like, maybe I should have been doing this all along. So that to me absolutely comes under the kind of growth category too.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
think there's so many different ways that when we talk about growth from grief, right? There's so many different avenues it could go
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we'll probably be talking about a lot of those
Yeah.
as we are answering questions. So, Kelly, thank you very much and look forward to talking to you on the next one.
All right. Thank you.